Alright, best of 2022. I'm a little late, so let's throw something together here. I think it's a nice video to do. It's nice to be nice about some stuff. So I will try to be nice about some stuff. Though I understand everyone would be much happier if I was exclusively a hateful loser. I mean, I wasn't overly inspired by the content this past year, which means I had to consume a larger volume of it to try and find some stuff that was good. I mean, the slop last year sucked. I don't know if you saw it, the slop last year. It was terrible. Everyone hated the slop last year. Amazing it was so successful. Sort of why I like the year-end list. When I look at a year-end list, not on YouTube, obviously, I'm not sick, but when I look at a year-end list, it's just nice to find out about some stuff that was actually worthwhile. Of course, the downside is it's always like a branding exercise, a way of like carving out a niche of relatable taste for your audience, signaling to consumers that you endorse their consumption habits. But I don't really care about all that stuff, you know, I'm just in it for the lists. Alright, games. My favorite game of 2022 was probably Marvel Snap, but obviously I can't say that. It'd be a fucking embarrassment. Can you imagine if I actually said that? Don't play Marvel Snap. I regret bringing it up. In fact, I only enjoyed it in the testing phase, and now that it's actually released and they have to monetize it, I don't recommend it at all. I mean, I thought it was innovative and good card... forget it. I'll pick something else. What other games did I play? Pentiment was a really good narrative-driven role-playing game. Very successfully takes you on a journey. Very artful game, though I did find it maybe a little bit annoying. Not in the writing, just to play. It was, I think it achieved all it was going for. It was good. It was good. And if you are into that sort of narrative-driven game, give this a crack. I think it's got great stuff to say, high-quality writing, style, very deliberate and proficient piece of art, but not like a super commercial game. Obviously, it's not. That's not what it's meant to be. But it isn't that. Signalis, also very strong. Aesthetically, style-wise, strong top-down retro shooter adventure stuff, very deliberately and enjoyably retro, which is a good distinction to make. It's retro and also enjoyable. I enjoyed the puzzles more than the combat and the exploration more than the narrative. I thought aesthetically the gameplay itself was stellar. I didn't care much for the twee bullshit, and I didn't finish it. The Case of the Golden Idol, sort of a narrative puzzle game, but very strong one. It's all based around one simple gameplay puzzle, but it's a really great one. Sort of the first time I've seen a mystery game where you do actually have to solve the mysteries. You can't bumble your way through to the end. It doesn't guide you, and it's basically impossible to do it brute force, so you're solving murder mysteries using your own deduction. So it really sets itself apart by being like actually a game that takes place in your brain. Victoria 3, sort of the first of the Paradox strategy games that I really got into. And I don't know if that's because it was any better or any more accessible than the rest, or if I've finally become boring enough to enjoy them. Vampire Survivors was a bit of fun, sort of retro-y idle game. A game perfectly designed to trick your brain into thinking that you're enjoying it. Fantastic time waster. It doesn't really require much input from you. It's a good game to have on while you're watching something. Total fucking waste of time, and I loved it. It was great fun. Elden Ring. It's the first time that a FromSoft game has actually held my attention. It's slightly easier. You don't actually have to fully master the combat to get through the game. And it's very sort of intricately crafted with its game design to sort of constantly reward you and challenge you in a way that is optimally engaging to me. I really did enjoy the more subtle, unguided storytelling and the subtle, unguided way that it sort of tells you where you need to go and stuff. It does genuinely feel very accessible. It's not hugely different from another open world game, but it is different enough and obtuse enough to be lastingly enjoyable. That said, I didn't finish it, but I think that'll be my game of the year. I'll say that that's my game of the year. Yeah. Music. My album of the year was probably Black Country New Road, Ants From Up There, which I made Black Country New Road my pick last year. It is less cool to say it this year. It's quite an acclaimed album. Don't forget it. I'll pick something else. Let's see. I didn't actually listen to that much music this year. I don't intend to get content out of music, so as a productivity thing, it's a waste of time. I have basically no music taste. I could list just everything that I listened to this year and wholeheartedly recommend it. Or Hatchie, Giving the World Away, sort of a fusion of like, I don't know, 90s rock and dream pop. Very nostalgic sound, but also a bit of a fresh sound. Pusha T, It's Almost Dry. Really good production on this. Pharrell, for a long time, has been known as the guy who makes the grating stinkers. And actually, let's not talk about this one. Crash by Charli XCX was a decent Charli XCX album. Well, it's good if you like that sound. Maybe a little bit more accessible than normal, a little bit less experimental than normal, but solid. Everything I Know About Love by Laufey. A real music head would call this like disgusting, bastardized elevator jazz, but it's pretty good. Bit of pop, bit of jazz, bit of lo-fi hip hop. I think it's a TikTok thing. It's like Zuma music, but I think it sounds lovely. Kelly Malone, Living Torch. A really great ambient album, huge ambience that runs the full range from, very light and ethereal to sort of dark and grand, and it creates a huge palette just with a few sounds like a synth and some brass, and it's just sort of all about harmonically layering these few sort of simple elements. It's really impressive work. Very great ambient stuff if you're looking for impressive ambience. Probably the sort of thing I'll try find a use for that music. It sounds really great. The Renaissance by Beyonce is just sort of, Beyonce for a long time has taken that sort of collaborative perfectionist thing, and it's produced a lot of very strong albums, but I don't know, when the music is sort of trying to be personal and it has this sort of collaborative approach, maybe you lose something. It maybe is like too many cooks or whatever. But this goes for just sort of dance pop with that same approach, and so it's just like dance pop done to perfection, which is very impressive. Though I've not actually looked into it that much. I don't know what the lyrical content is about. Maybe I'm way off base there. I think it's a very fun album. Jockstrap, I Love You Jennifer B, which sort of doing art pop, experimental pop in a new and fresh way. A lot of bizarre stuff in here, a lot of incredible stuff in here. It doesn't overly sound like anything except for previous Jockstrap work, but just sort of more extreme, pushing out in different directions, more different directions. It's just a very novel album. So I'll make that my album of the year. It's good. Something new sounding. It's good. Movies. So my movie of the year this year was probably Blonde. Well, I can't say that. I can't say that, obviously. Let's see, what else did I watch this year? I don't really like movies. As a kid, I always hated watching movies. A tradition I continue to this day. What am I doing? Decision to Leave. A beautiful little movie about what if there were some fucking freaks. It's not incredible in premise or plot, but the execution is really well done. A very nuanced movie, probably more nuanced than the subtitles permit. A lot of very intricate camera work and impossible shots and stuff. If you're a dork and a freak who cares about that sort of shit. But yeah, pretty slick and pretty good. The Banshees of Inisherin. Basically, it's a movie about what if there were some fucking freaks. I like the Martin McDonagh movies, and it's at its best when a dialogue scene really gets going, when there's some riffing happening. A lot like his previous movie, Three Billboards, it just sort of gets impossibly bleak and miserable, and it maybe feels like that's not the intention. It's more like it's whiffing jokes because they're too dark and bleak, then it's actually going for drama. But it's interesting. Pretty fun. Check out the other Martin McDonagh movies first, but it's a pretty good one. Pretty good. The Batman. It's a movie about basically what if there were some fucking freaks shot up into being one of my favorite superhero movies, basically by just sort of being a 70s crime movie, knockoff, rip-off sort of thing. It's not particularly fresh, but it works quite well. I did think it fell apart in the last act, but everything up until that was incredible. And I mean, as well as being just sort of a crime movie, it does the campy superhero stuff well and in a sort of fun way, and it also has great action. I really like the action in this movie. Very sort of tactile and blocked out. I like really clearly blocked out action, and this really worked. And my long running take on Batman is that it's kind of stupid, and so this deals with that by not really taking the Batman stuff seriously, but just being stylistically slick as fuck. Tar was a pretty good movie about what if there was a fucking freak. Don't Look Up got a lot of hate, and I think the content probably deserves that level of hate, but I did really like the style of it. I don't think it works as a satire or a comedy, but I loved the execution of it on its own. I would give it my award for editing of the year. Don't Look Up. But sort of probably don't watch it actually. It's not worthwhile. Pacifiction, just sort of aimlessly following the High Commissioner of Tahiti around as he is charming and detestable, and there is the threat of nuclear testing in the background. It's a very ambient movie, a bit Lynchian. A little bit like Nicholas Winding Refn, but quite funny and satirical. A lot of very funny little micro whiffing of social interactions. It really sort of seems to skewer colonialism and culture war and neoliberal attitudes of the South. So pretty funny. It's really like a drama, a tension movie that takes place almost entirely in the first act. It's just this really sort of drawn out build of tension, which is fantastic. Sort of weirdly shot. I think it's shot on digital, like consumer grade digital, but it's often very beautiful. Sometimes it's a little bit stinky, but it's generally quite beautiful. Shot a little bit documentary style, where there's a lot of intercutting between takes that, you know, don't have continuity together. It sort of does that thing of capturing a lot of little moments that are very authentic and interesting. So I'll say that's my favorite movie of the year. Pacifiction, check it out. So let's talk about shows. My favorite show of the year would be Andor, and I can't make that my show of the year because of some excuse, and then I'd move on to reading through what other shows I've seen this year. A good way to get through a TV show, if you're looking for a way to get through a large volume of TV shows, is you just watch the first episode and the last episode. It's very easy to figure out what happened in the middle. I did that with Lost, actually. I can't imagine that anything happened in that show between the pilot and the finale. Anyway, The Bear, which is about a top chef sprucing up a restaurant, and it's actually about grief and family. No, it is, and it's good. It sort of has a lot of authenticity and lightly funny throughout. Maybe not as funny as it was trying to be, but it's just sort of, it's a subtle comedy, so it works. A very enjoyable watch. They go through some sort of showy gimmicks, and I don't know, it maybe fell apart a little bit towards the end. Let's move on. The Rehearsal, Nathan Fielder show about helping people to prepare for situations that they don't feel like they're ready for, but with the classic Nathan Fielder twist that is just taken way too far. I mean, previous Nathan Fielder stuff, you know, it has a lot of peaks and valleys, and this is just sort of one idea drawn out. So it is kind of weird. It feels like it loses itself, but that does kind of work on a meta level. It's nice. It's content that sort of threatens itself and threatens the entire form of reality television. White Lotus, a show about rich people fucking around. It's a good, fun show. It felt like season 1 worked better. It felt more disappointed, if a little bit misguided. Season 2 just sort of is enjoying the aesthetic. Absolutely toothless, but a lot of fun. On YouTube there was Finding Yeezus, a documentary about tracking down the creator of Kanye Quest. Does sort of the comedic documentary thing, just sincerely and well. It's just nice to see something like that getting made and working. But my show of the year was probably Caleb Gammon's Cybergunk. No. I will talk about my top picks on the website if you really care to hear that. And I have talked about a lot of the topical 2022 content throughout the year as it happened. So you can check that out too if you want to subscribe there. Anyway, that's it for now. And I should be back in a few weeks for something else. Thanks.